Good morning, I'm Grant Flora, and it's time for the Coach's Corner Basketball Show on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. With me this morning is student Zach Bowen and boys head basketball coach John Everingham. And so this morning we're going to start off with a recap of the West Noble game that took place last Saturday night. Really good game, a thriller. So Coach, like we said, that West Noble game was a high-octane back-and-forth affair that came down to the wire before you fell short in overtime. Despite the loss, where did you make progress in that contest?
Well, I think we competed with a good basketball team. I was just looking recently at some of their scores. I'm sure you follow them, being from West Noble, but I think their last 8 or 9 regular season games, that goes into last year. I think they're 3-0 this year, 4-0. There hasn't been a team that's come within 15 points of them, and most of their games have been blowouts. They played Tuesday night against Concord, where they won by 30 points. And so we're well aware that West Noble is a good basketball team, and we knew that kind of going into the game, and we knew it'd be tough to kind of stay with them. But we think we got a pretty good basketball team ourselves. And so the way you kind of introed and explained the game is about right. It was like two trains meeting head on, and both teams were ready to go. It was a physical contest. There was a lot of fouls called. But both teams were ready to play, and both teams had a game plan, and certainly ours centered around what we were going to do against Austin Kripe, and he got in a little bit of foul trouble, but we were able to hang in there and actually have about a 5-point lead, I think, late in the game in the fourth quarter, and just couldn't quite hang on to that lead.
Coach kind of touched up on this a little bit, but what things did you learn about your team overall in that game?
Well, like I said, we know we can compete at that level, and so I think there's another level yet above that. And certainly when you take a look at teams in the NLC, you take a look at Northwood, that was a good game for us to play early in the season. And along with Manchester, you look at Manchester and some of their scores. They scored 80 points prior to us playing them, and then they turned around, I think, on Tuesday night and scored 93 points. And so, we're playing really good teams, and you look back and certainly think that, Fairfield and Manchester and West Noble, the 3 games that we've dropped, we've been right there within striking distance and a chance to be 4-0. Unfortunately, we're 1-3, and we have to kind of analyze and take a look at what we're doing well and remain positive, and as we go into the stretch of where our schedule doesn't get much easier. We got Warsaw coming up, Columbia City, Central Noble, and then our holiday tournament with a couple good teams there too. So we have to continue to kind of focus on what we're doing well. We're moving the ball better. We're playing defense a little bit better. We played scrappy against West Noble. We forced them to do things that they didn't really want to do, and we certainly made them think through what it was going to take to beat us too. And it comes down to the last possession there where, we make a play on defense and get the ball with, I think, 8.9 seconds or something like that. We have a shot to win the game. And so if we keep putting ourselves in those positions, it's going to help us, later on down the road.
All right, well, Coach, throughout the game, you had to contend with some foul trouble. When you had some guys go to the bench, you had to bring off guys like Nolan Holzwart, Mason Shoemaker saw some minutes, Weston Hoffert, and they all came in and contributed pretty well. But what did you learn about your bench as they had to step up?
Yeah, you have an idea before the game starts of what substitution patterns that you want, and certainly every game brings different scenarios that you just don't know are going to kind of pop up. And so I think at some point in the game we had, I think, 4 players with 4 fouls. And so I'm not sure anybody fouled out. Do you guys recall anybody from either team fouling out of the game?
I think in overtime, Peyton Felger may have fouled out, and Aiden Zavala for West Noble may have fouled out.
That's right, 33 fouled out for them. But, that's an overtime game where, you're battling foul trouble. You got to give credit to their coach, and I thought our coaching staff did a pretty good job, too, of managing, those minutes. Kripe, when you get Kripe into a situation where he's got 4 fouls and it's kind of danger time, he means a lot to their team. And, he drove to the basket late in that fourth quarter, and Peyton took a block charge. We call it a blarge, where it could have went either way, and it was called a block on Peyton. But that would have put Kripe out of the game, and that certainly would have changed the feel of the game, would have changed what defense that we were in. We ran a 1-on-1 on Kripe and something that we have been working on. But we saw on film, too. East Noble started out against West Noble in a traditional 1-on-1, and we thought that was something that we were willing to try against Kripe. And so we did a pretty good job on him, actually. And kind of like the Fairfield game where we took care of the outside, and then Barth kind of took over the game and put West Noble on his back through a stretch of the game where they were finding ways to get him the ball down low, and then he probably scored 10 or 12 points in that second half.
Coach, I'd like to touch up on Maddox here. He had another impressive performance with 19 points. What can you say about his performance so far here early in the season?
He's been playing, all three of our guards, actually, have been playing pretty consistently, and I've been very happy and very pleased with the way they're putting the ball through the hoop and scoring the basketball. Those guys are not super concerned about their points per game, and all three of those guys are really, thinking through what it's going to take for us to win basketball games. And so they're interested in getting better and continually improving. And you have to remember, too, that, with the guys that are scoring, a lot of points for us, with our three guards, you have to remember, Collin's coming in as a transfer. This is brand new for him. But you also have to look at Miles and Maddox taking on different roles than what they did, last year. And so a good portion of their season last year, they were just shooters. They would stand outside and Dukes would kind of create, or Welty would create and kick the ball out to them, and they would find themselves with open shots. And so we didn't see a whole lot from them getting the ball to the basket, getting to the foul line, pulling up with their mid-range game. And so when you really analyze, what Maddox is doing is he's continuing to shoot the ball well. I think 44% from three-point line. But he's extending his game. Offensively, he's being able to get the ball into the paint, pull up from 10 or 12 feet, and then at times he's getting the ball to the basket. And so I think something for me to continually understand is that we're a team that's getting better. Individual players are doing things in addition to what they've always kind of done, and so. Something to talk about, too, is that Collin Zebarth goes to the line 18 or 19 times in that game, and just a true warrior, just keeps getting up off the floor and going back to the basket. So we're getting to the free throw line. We are shooting the ball well from the outside, and we just need to kind of continue to do that.
Yeah, I was going to mention that about Zebarth, too. He had 18 points in the game, went 16 of 18 from the free throw line. He was just a trooper in that West Noble matchup. So another thing, early in the game, West Noble knocked down some perimeter shots and got out to an early lead. But it wasn't quite like that Manchester game before. You were able to come back and close the gap pretty quickly. How are you able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we have shown that we got some poise. We felt, like you said, we fell behind Manchester by 14 points. You fall behind a good team by 14. It takes a lot of energy to kind of get back in that game, and we proved that we can do that. We didn't, get outside of the things that we were trying to do, against Manchester. And so, I think it's a kind of a calmness about our team that, West Noble comes out and they knock down what felt like about, 4 or 5 shots in a row. I think Scamelhorn hit a shot and Kripe hit a 3. I think 33 Zabala hit a 3 from right at the top of the key. And so they didn't miss a whole lot. We kind of took a haymaker early in that game and stuck right with them. I don't know what the score was at the end of the first quarter, if you guys got stats or not, but I think it might have been a 2-point game at the end of that first quarter. So we were right there. It was back and forth and nip and tuck, and we made plays and they made plays, and they had guys step up and do some things, and so did we. So we've had some games that are really entertaining, and so I hope people are really enjoying watching our team play, because we play hard, we play together, and we're doing some of the little things that nobody notices in terms of running a high school basketball program that I'm very proud of. And so when you see our guys play on the floor, they're very respectful to their opponents. They're very respectful to the officials. You rarely ever see the ball squirted away without us grabbing it and handing it to an official. And you rarely see us when an official hands us the ball where we don't say, thank you, sir, or thank you, ma'am. It's yes, sir, no, sir. And so I'm very proud of our guys and the way they're performing on the big stage. And I think we can only improve from where we're at right now.
I'd like to bring up OT a little bit here. You kind of seemed kind of shaky in OT. Not shaky, but kind of the fatigue started to set in. So what can you say about that and how you can overcome in future games that fatigue?
I will call out one play that I'm not sure in all my years of coaching I've ever seen a tip ball in overtime, a tip ball go out of bounds. And then, like in the olden days, believe it or not, when there was a jump ball, it wasn't alternating possession. They would actually, the two people that there was 3 jump circles, one on each end and then one in the middle. So if there was a jump ball, they literally jumped it between the 2 players that got tied up. So I don't know when that rule changed, but it seemed like it was in the 90s, at some point. But that ball went out of bounds, and then I look up and Miles is at jump center with I don't know who it was, maybe Zabala, but we won that tip. We got fouled on the end before they scored, and we missed the front end of a 1-on-1, and then it was all West Noble kind of from there. And so we missed a couple shots, and with a 4-minute overtime, things can go one way or the other. And for us, West Noble made the plays in that overtime, and we were kind of playing from behind. So, but it doesn't take away from the performance that we had. And to put ourselves in position. I thought we were a little kind of shocked that we didn't win that game in regulation. I thought the advantage probably was to West Noble in overtime and before it even started. And so, it's just how it goes sometimes. You win some and you lose some, and we fought like warriors in that game.
For West Noble, basically, Braden Barth was able to come in the second half when he only played, I believe, 2 minutes in that first half and really just did some big things for him. But overall, how big were your interior players to kind of help control the paint and help keep you in the game? It's
an area of improvement. We've played behind teams. We've given them the pass to the post, and this week we've worked on not doing that anymore. And so it kind of takes you out of rebounding position a little bit if you start side fronting or full fronting. But we have to give up something. We're not quite good enough defensively not to give up something. And we're going to start. We just can't allow teams to throw the ball in the post as easily as we have. I was proud of our guys for fighting down there, but that's an area where we have to get better at. Barth and Tyson Fry and the Benton kid, they've all hurt us from the inside, and so we have to have a solution to, doing better in the post there.
All right, well, that's going to conclude our recap of West Noble. Coming up, we'll discuss the Whitco matchup tonight, so don't go anywhere. More Coach's Corner basketball show coming up on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner basketball show here on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. I'm Grant Flora here with Zach Bowen and head basketball coach John Everingham. And, Coach, now it's time to preview Whitco. And so you've had a full week of practice. You haven't played since that West Noble game that we just discussed. So how big is it for you tonight to come in and try and get back on the winning ways?
Yeah, I know that that's certainly something that we're thinking about, the winning ways. But we've really done a pretty good job, for over the last couple of weeks of really thinking about our team and individual improvement, of each individual player. And I think if we keep getting better in certain areas, that the winning will kind of take care of itself. And so we're not talking too much about winning right now in this point in our season. And there will be a time where we'll say this is a must win and we have to perform well. And because that's how, it goes when you compete, But right now we're not really thinking about that. We're thinking about getting better and improving and we're certainly picking some points out. The nice thing for us is that we've had 2 full weeks of practice, and so we've been able to play some games, and then we go to the back to the drawing board and say, okay, not necessarily all about what we need to get better at, but what are we doing well, and how can we expand on some of the strengths that we have, and then pinpointing just a few things that we can focus on in order to get better. This week against West Noble, we missed, I think, 7 or 8 box outs that have nothing to do with talent. It's simply that we didn't go find a man, and we didn't put a body on a man, and we didn't get that rebound when it mattered the most. And so we've really taken on, one of our focuses this week is putting making contact with the defender and ending possessions. And when you end a possession, that means you're off and running on the other end. So our transition game, I'm hoping, will be a direct result of doing better on the defensive boards. And so we made a couple changes in terms of who might be bringing that ball up in transition. Zebarth has shown that he is really fast. He's got good ball handling skills. He just creates a different pace when he's got the ball in his hands in transition. And so we like putting our shooters on the wings and maybe letting Zebarth create just a little more in transition. But in order to do that, you have to get a rebound on the defensive end. So we've had a couple weeks to practice and focus on some things we'd like to get better at, and then also kind of building on our strengths. And so we feel good about going into the Whitco game tonight. We know they're well coached. We know they have some talent on their team, some guys that we really had to focus on. But we do get them at home. And so I think the guys are excited to get back out there after a couple tough losses last weekend.
Coach, we were kind of talking about the roster and how there might be some changes tonight. So what can you tell us what's going on there?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had a tough week physically and mentally. When you got some things to kind of clean up, there's times when things get a little tough. And so you kind of find out with your roster who's got the mental and physical toughness that it's going to take to get your team where you need to be. We got the NLC schedule staring us in the eye starting next week, and things will get physically and mentally tough. And so we did have a couple tough practices this week. We haven't practiced real long this week, but we did have some tough practices. And then you add the tough practices, and then you add some injuries and sickness, and it makes for a long week, in all honesty. And so from a coaching perspective, you know it's coming. You can't go through a season and avoid injuries, and you can't avoid any season. So at all 15, 16 seasons that I've ever coached in, you kind of prepare your team to say, hey, we're developing some depth, on our roster so that when this happens, not if, when the injuries come, when the sickness comes, that we can have other guys just fill in those spots and we're going to be fine. And so for us, it's come a little early this season in terms of sickness and injury. And so we'll have to have guys kind of step up, off the JV team and off of our bench to be able to kind of move forward in a solid direction.
Yeah, Coach, this kind of ties into that. But
aren't you guys going to ask who it is?
Yeah, Coach, what do you know?
I'm just kidding. I'm sure you're curious who these players are, right? But we're really, honestly, we're thinking about these guys and we're hoping that they get better quickly. We have a young man named Micah Wilson who is a major prospect for us. He's 6'5" with a 6'7" wingspan, baby-faced. He's got a soft touch, great feet, just like a coach's dream, when he walks in terms of what he looks like, and certainly his attitude has been great. But he's battling a bit of a back injury, and he will not be able to play on the JV tonight, and battling some sickness as well. So we're going to push the reset button with him and get him back on track maybe come Monday. Nolan Holsworth is also out. He was battling about a week ago a hamstring injury, and he really toughed it out and tried to play last weekend. And then early this week, it kind of reared its ugly head, and we're going to go ahead and sit him out as well for the Whitco game and try to see where he's at Monday, Tuesday next week. And then Maddox, Everingham, will also be questionable. I think that's probably a good word. He's probably out for tonight's game against Whitco, but he's also battling some medical issues that have been going on for a couple weeks that we finally decided to get him some rest and to sit him out of practice. He did practice yesterday, Friday, a little bit, and we'll take him through a workout today and kind of see where he's at for this evening's game. Best case scenario, he'd play limited minutes. Worst case scenario, we'll do what we did with Nolan and Micah and just kind of sit him out and kind of push the reset button and see where we're at Monday and Tuesday. So the good news is it gives other people a chance to kind of step up, play some additional minutes. We got obviously our sixth man right now with Carson Smith stepping in there and giving us some good minutes. Weston Hoffert will play 1 quarter less on the JV. And then Mason Shoemaker's another guy off the bench. And even into Weston DeLong may have a favorable matchup when we play Whitco tonight.
Yeah, Coach, that was kind of what I was going to say. You've got a lot of guys that have a big opportunity to get more minutes than usual and really take a leap to improve themselves individually, which ultimately, down the road, should help you as a team.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Are you going into coaching someday, or are you going to stick with this broadcasting thing? Because you sound like you know what you're talking about when it comes to coaching.
Well, I haven't really planned on coaching yet, but I've watched a lot of basketball. So.
Yeah, you have. I saw you guys out there in the gym, you and your buddies, and doing some film, and all I heard was Connor Barth for 3. Is his name Connor? Braden Barth for 3, and it's ringing in my head as I'm walking through the gym. But you guys love your West Noble Chargers, as you should. And anyway, so I know you guys love basketball, and yeah, you can tell by the way some of the questions both of you guys asked. But what was the question?
Well, originally I was going to ask, what players are you looking to take a big leap tonight? We already kind of answered that.
Yeah, okay, look, when from a coaching perspective, you always feel bad for the kid that can't go. You know, I mean, you really do, and you want them to go. But on the other hand, it's kind of exciting. You know, so these guys that have been practicing hard, they're doing the same things in practice. They're practicing just as hard as the guys who actually get on the floor and play. And they're just kind of waiting for their opportunity. And so sometimes opportunities come when you least expect it. And for these guys, they're going to get more minutes tonight, and they're going to get some more opportunities, and they're ready, and they're excited about those opportunities. So, you know, when a guy goes down or a guy goes out, you certainly feel bad for that particular player, but you're excited for the other players to get a chance to step up and kind of see what they can do. So, whether it's a huge victory or a huge fail for that individual player, that's something that they're going to take, and it's experiences that are going to make them better, as we feel like all of our players on the JV are prospects, you know, for the varsity. And so when you see that JV player go from JV to varsity, it's kind of exciting. Again, we keep talking about Barth. Barth did the same thing last year. You know, Barth started off on the JV, and I watched him play against our JV, and I'm thinking, no, man, I'm going to have to deal with that kid here pretty soon and probably for the next 2 years, which is exactly what happened.
Coach, you're kind of touching up on that preparation. So what things did you work on this week to really lock in tonight?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the boxing out. You know, the physical nature of play, I think, is something defensively. We played scrappier against West Noble. We knocked the ball loose on a couple dig downs, and we made it difficult on West Noble to kind of do their thing on the offensive end. And so we weren't just focused on our guy. We were focused on team defense. I thought a lot better last week. And so, you know, this week was more about, you know, making players go to places where they don't want to go. So if a guy's cutting from the wing to the low block, that we can bump those cutters, that we can bump them off of where they actually want to go. And so tonight, you know, there may be a few fouls called because we're a little more physical than we've shown in the past. And, you know, the ability to make contact with somebody when you're setting a screen, the ability to fight through a screen, you know, when you're trying to guard your man. And so it's just some of those physical things that I thought we could have done a little bit better against West Noble. And again, we got the NLC schedule coming up, and that's how you have to play in the NLC. You have to be physically fit. You don't have to be a big guy, but you have to be physically fit. You have to be ready for contact. And so those are the things we've been working on this week. And clearly, you know, boxing out, you know, making contact with your player when the shot goes up is something that we really focused on this week. We have to be able to out-rebound Whitco tonight in order to get out in transition and to score some easy buckets. And so those are the things we've been working on. We continue to hit on the offensive end, we continue to hit on the ball movement and turning good shots into great shots. And so this week in practice, we've turned down a lot of really good shots, and we've turned them into great shots. And so, if you shoot 35% from the three-point arc, that's a good percentage, right? But you know what the percentage is when you work the ball just a few more passes and you get a layup? That's like 95%. And so starting to get our guys to understand if we show just a little more patience on offense, we can turn a good shot into a great shot. And so those are the things we've been working on this week, is the physical toughness that it takes to play on the defensive end and the offensive end, setting screens. And then on the offensive end is just being a little more patient in terms of our ball movement and looking for the open man to get a better shot.
Coach, talking about that defensive end, Whitco's coming in tonight with a top scorer, Kyler Kroll. He's averaging nearly 15 points per game, but he's a really good player for him. So is he going to be a focus for that defense?
Yeah, he'll be like Kripe last week. I mean, he's a good player. He's 6'6". He shoots a lot of threes, but he's probably most dangerous down in the low blocks. 6'6". We don't have a guy that really matches up with him well, and so that's a concern. If you put Collin on him, who matches up size-wise really well in the interior, he'll take you out to the exterior, and he has the ability to knock down threes. And so probably the scariest thing about Kroll is the fact that he's not off to a real good start. He's still averaging 15 a game, but he's not shooting the ball real well from the outside. His percentages are down just a little bit. So a player of that caliber has got the potential to really do better than what he's doing. So he's playing real well right now, but he's got an upside to him. That certainly is. I hope he figures it out next week, not tonight. And so our job is to make sure that we're physical with him when he cuts. They screen for him really well, and certainly our focuses that we've been thinking about in practice this week are hopefully going to help us in defending Kyler Kroll. We'll start Miles on him, and he's going to get some help. We may move to a box and one like we did last week. Against West Noble. So you'll see a mixture of defenses again, and it's all centered around making sure that dude doesn't go off for about 25 or 30 points.
Coach, you're kind of talking about the transfer from last game. So my question is, what things are you hoping to transfer from last game over to this game tonight?
Are you inserting transfer in there on purpose there, knowing that Z-Barth transferred from so I don't know how you've used transfer about 4 or 5 times, and I think it's
maybe a little bit.
I think it's appropriate to go ahead and give a statement on that, and I'm sure there's people that know that Collin Z-Barth played for Whitco last year, and we're playing Whitco tonight, and so I'm excited for Collin, and it's not a situation where I believe that he left there with any ill will or he's still buddies with those guys. I know that Kroll kid is still one of his best buddies and things like that. So I know he's nervous. He's a little excited, about his new start here at Wawasee. And so it's not your typical I'm unhappy and I'm going to a different school, type thing. It's just one of those things that he and his family kind of made that decision. And he's a Warrior now. And so I think that's what the focus is, going into tonight is that Z-Barth is very interested in making the Wawasee Warriors as good as we possibly can be.
Well, that's going to wrap up our Whitco preview for tonight. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about Warsaw coming up in about a week. So don't go anywhere. More Coach's Corner basketball show coming up on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner basketball show here on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. I'm Grant Flora with Zach Bowen and Coach John Everingham. And Coach, now we look ahead to December 16th, where you guys will host the Warsaw Tigers in your first NLC matchup. Coach, the upcoming Warsaw game is a big matchup. Like we said, it kicks off the NLC play. How important is it to start off conference play well?
We're going to be ready for the Tigers. And so that's all I got to say about that. I'm not going to I'd rather talk about you guys. These podcasts, you guys watch any podcasts?
Yeah.
You guys you subscribe on social media, or how do you watch podcasts?
I usually watch them on YouTube. Yeah. It's usually the ESPN type of stuff.
Okay. What are some of your favorite podcasts?
My favorite right now, I forget what it is. I think it's like First Take or something. They go into detail about like sports things going on around the world.
It's kind of cool what we're doing right now because we're just sitting around talking, and people that are listening probably don't understand how fast it goes. We do 15-minute segments, and we sit here and talk about basketball, and it goes really fast. And when you're just talking, and it does have a feel. We don't have a camera in here. I think they actually you guys have equipment to where we could actually do a podcast here and post that online. But you guys do a really good job of asking questions, and I probably need to talk a little less on some of these answers, but it's kind of fun being in here in the studio and talking to you guys and talking about our team. And certainly we got a lot of things going on that are really positive. So anyway, it's fun. Grant, you watch any podcasts?
I'm not a huge podcast guy, but a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to sports, I'll watch videos, breakdowns of sports, especially some of my favorite teams, things like that. So
yeah, cool. Anyway, what was the question again? Something about Warsaw. We play Warsaw next weekend on Friday night. We get them here at home, and so I don't want to give any bulletin board material to Warsaw Tigers, but I almost get a little amped up, and so I'm trying to hold that. I'm trying to hold that down because we got Whitco to think about tonight, and certainly they're well coached, and they have a couple good players in Whitco, and you certainly don't want to overlook. And I know I had one player come into my office this week, and he said, hey, let's watch some film on Warsaw. And I said, we play Whitco Saturday. Like, what year? So I know our players are getting amped up, and I know they're getting excited for the Warsaw game. And I had an assistant coach on Wednesday or Thursday bring me a whole notes on individual players, and he was doing his research outside of the working day, looking into who's playing and who's hurt and all this stuff. And he brings me a full page of Warsaw. I said, where's the Whitco? Where's the Whitco scouting report? And he said, well, we got – so everybody's kind of talking and thinking in the back of their head that Warsaw is coming to town. And I think the reason why people are excited is because we think we have a pretty good basketball team. Warsaw is going to be a formidable opponent, certainly when they come in here next week. And anytime the Warsaw Tigers walk through the door, it's going to get you pretty jacked up. It's a Friday night game. It's going to be well attended. There would be a sense of that both teams could potentially win. We played them in the past where we didn't have much of a chance, and so the year we went over there and beat them at Warsaw in the Tiger Den, that was probably the game that people thought was the least likely game we could win, in terms of in the last 20 years, but we beat them. So you never know, what to expect in a basketball game. One team could win by 10 and the other team could win by 10 or 20. So I think if you ask their coaches and if you ask their program and some of their players, they know that we're for real and they know that we're fully capable of beating them. And so they're going to have to be at the top of their game when they come to the hardwood teepee in order to get a victory. And so we're going to be well prepared. I can guarantee you that. We're going to know their out-of-bounds plays. We're going to know their set plays. We're going to know who their focus is on in terms of where they want to get the ball and who they want to get the ball to. And we're going to try to put together a game plan in order to make it difficult for them to do that. And so it's the NLC. It's how it works. And last year we failed to pick up an NLC victory. We'd like to start off this year with a big win. And certainly our kids, there's a feeling that we kind of have earned it. We deserve it. We've had a couple close losses, and we're going to be ready for those Tigers when they walk through here.
Coach, I'd like to touch up on that a little bit, the whole Warsaw thing. As a student that goes here to Wawasee, I know what you're talking about. Warsaw, it's a different feel because we kind of have that rivalry with them. Like, I'd kind of describe it as a Michigan-Ohio State type deal, the rivalry with us. It's a huge game. So what can you kind of touch up on that rivalry a little bit?
Well, I think if you look at, the definition of a rivalry, in my mind, here's how I describe it. It's when, both teams win. Like you get one team that's won a couple years in a row and another team. Warsaw, to be quite honest, they've dominated us in a lot of different areas, and same with maybe Northwood. And so, we may call it a rivalry, but I don't know if they do. I don't know. I haven't been to Warsaw, and I'm not in their basketball program. But here's the thing: if we win We won over there a few years back, and that certainly I thought would help the rivalry. But we have to win in order for it to be a rivalry. You look at, like you said, Michigan and Ohio State and some of those big, huge rivalries in different sports. It kind of goes back and forth. And so it's our responsibility. If we want to create these rivalries, we have to start beating them. And so I can remember back in high school, and I won't mention the names of the schools, but I remember being the bigger school, and the other schools are always talking about this is a rivalry game, and we thought, you're not our rival. Our rival is another school that's beaten us 2 of the last 4 years, and so, for us right now, the West Noble rivalry seems to be one where it's gone back and forth. We've won, they've won. We've at Tippy Valley, if they would still be in our sectional, where both teams have kind of won half of the games, and boy, when we get together, we tangle. And so I like the word rivalry, and certainly if you're from Wawasee, you're going to look and say, well, Warsaw's our rival. But in order to create a rivalry, you better win. And so we have to come in here next weekend and kind of start that rivalry back up. That's our responsibility. And so I don't know if they're still thinking about when we beat them over there at the Tigers Den. I seriously doubt it. But if we beat them on Friday night, I'm telling you, that rivalry is back. And so we haven't beaten them in a whole lot of sports. And you look at Warsaw and Northwood, that's who we want our rivals to be. Because if it's a rivalry between Wawasee and Warsaw in terms of boys basketball, that means we are winning. And if it's a rivalry between Wawasee and Northwood, that means that we have beat them, and they're upset about it, and it creates a rivalry. Right now, we haven't won enough against those 2 teams in order to create a rivalry. And so now if we do this year, I'm telling you for the next 2 or 3 years, it is going to be an all-out war. Now, when Warsaw comes in here, I'm telling you, boys, I'm telling you right now, it will be a war. And I'm talking a war, because we are going to be smoke blowing out of our ears and out of our noses. When they walk through, I'm going to be holding the guys back. Whoa. Let's wait till the game starts. That's what it's going to feel like. I'm telling you. Okay, we're going to be ready to play those Tigers when they walk through here. And I'm telling you, if you want to see an all-out war, okay, come to the Warsaw game. You're going to see 2 teams collide in a way that's pretty cool. And it was probably you guys have talked about on air about this kind of feels like February, March, right? Type feel.
Yeah.
Well, get ready. Next weekend is going to be the same thing. It's going to be like 2 teams going wham, just head on, nose to nose, and just colliding at the Hardwood Teepee. And so it's a home game. It's going to be quite a buzz in the gym. But I go back to, see, you guys got me worked up over Warsaw. These guys are pros.
Smoke coming out of your ear.
I know. But we got Whitco tonight, guys. I'm telling you, we got to get through this one, and then we can talk about that one later. But we don't have a morning show to talk about Warsaw, do we? Because we play on Friday night.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next question?
Well, Coach, we'll talk a little bit about Warsaw, and then we'll get into kind of an intro to our 4th and final segment. But there's a fine line between the energy and the rivalry becoming a fuel for the team to play better and to compete at a high level, and overwhelming a team to where it creates a lot of nerves and can cause some mistakes. How do you make sure that energy is fueled towards making you play better?
Yeah, we'll deal with that. Here's how I assess that, and I remember my high school coach saying this too, but it's much easier to pull the reins back on players to say, whoa, than it is to light the fire under them. And so if you got players that you're always going around trying to bump them and say, hey, come on, let's go. Let's get fired up. You're trying to light a fire under them to get more excited, to be pumped up or whatever. That's difficult for a coach to do. It's a lot easier to go, whoa, guys, just let's chill for a second. Let's pull the reins back just a little bit. And then you just, it's kind of like riding not that I ever have, but, that derby horse where you're just riding them, you're pulling back the reins a little bit. And then when it's time to go, you reach back and go whap, and you go boom, and that horse is off and running. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of the feel that I have, with our team, that it'll be about, trying to, keep the guys calm and focused on the types of things that we need to do to win a basketball game. And then once it's time to go, it's let them go, let the horses go. And so it'll be pretty exciting.
Coach, for our next segment, we have Roberson and Felger hopping in here. So what can you say about them?
Well, not enough. I can tell you that these guys are special guys, and so they've been with our program, for the last 4 years, and I'm excited about having you guys talk to them, and both of those guys. Collin Roberson is a kid that I remember watching play in 8th grade, and knowing that he's going to be a good varsity player someday, and so these guys are selfless. They care more about team winning than their individual accomplishments, and they're the exact definition of who you want in your program. And so some people call them role players, but guess what? Everybody's a role player, and some guys have roles to put the ball through the hoop. Other guys got roles to get the rebounds, and other people have roles to defend the other team's best defender. And so I don't like labeling them as kind of role players, because all of our players are role players, but in the sense that maybe people think that they fulfill their roles to the best of their abilities, and they do sacrifice, personal achievements in order to make our team better. And so when you're looking at the big picture and why you play high school athletics or why you do extracurricular activities, it's really to learn about who you are and who you're going to become after you get done with high school. And so I'm confident that these two guys have had experiences in the boys basketball program that are going to benefit them for a lifetime. And so our other players recognize what they do for our team, but sometimes they don't get their names in the paper like maybe some others do, because they don't have the statistical data to justify that. But they know their value. They know their value to our team is as good or better than other players on the team. They just don't get the spotlight all the time. And so I'm proud of those guys for that. And when you get people in your program, like that, it's pretty special to witness. And so I get to witness it every day. And so I think that's special, and I'm looking forward to you guys chatting with them.
There we go. I had to jump in.
Yep.
So I get to witness these two fine young men do some amazing things every afternoon in our class. But here recently, what I witness when they come to class is the World Cup soccer thing on their phones. So you're a basketball coach, and of course the World Cup is going on, and I am not a fan of soccer. I just don't understand the game. Real quick,
where's my mute button over here?
Yeah,
which one is mine?
Yeah,
here. Can you hear me now? 'Cause I would like to say a few things about the game of soccer.
Yeah. You're like me then, huh? So World Cup's going on.
Time out. I do have some good things to say. Well, my first coaching gig was at Argus, and if you are a soccer guy, you know Argus, and so they play the regional there. It's a huge soccer school, and so if I had some ill feelings towards the game of soccer, okay, that completely changed when I went and watched. And I saw how physical the game of soccer is, number one, and how passionate the fans are. And so all of a sudden, I'm that guy that was standing on the sidelines with the Argus flag and doing all the chants and whatever. I thought it would be boring if we won 1-0. I'll tell you what, I couldn't have been farther from the truth about boring in soccer. That's not the case. So anyway, that's good, right?
That's good. That's good. So what I want to know is, let's see, Phillips is the PA announcer at the home basketball games, right? So can we get Phillips after one of your boys lights up a 3 or something like that and do the goal?
Yeah. Yes, we can. That's fine with me. Yeah. Let's do it. He would do it. He'd be the one that would actually do it too.
He probably would. Okay, Grant, back to you.
Well, yeah, coming up, we have Peyton, Felger, and Collin Roberson, two seniors here at Wawasee High School on this basketball team. We're going to talk with them, get to know them a little bit. That's what we're going to do, and we'll be back with more Coach's Corner basketball show on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner basketball show. Here I'm Grant Flora with Zach Bowen, and we have Wawasee seniors Collin Roberson and Peyton Felger with us this morning. To start us off, how about you guys introduce yourselves, maybe tell us some things about you, other sports that you play, maybe if you have plans after high school.
I'm Collin Roberson. I don't really have any plans after high school, but other outside activities is hanging out with family, friends, simple stuff like that, just being a high schooler.
My name's Peyton Felger, and some activities I have is hanging out with friends and family, and after high school, I plan to attend college.
All right, so my first question for both of you is, whoever wants to start it out, is what does the Wawasee basketball program mean to you?
Wawasee basketball means a lot to me. It means friendship, family.
I would say it's almost like a second family. During the week, you're mostly seeing those guys more than you are your real family, so that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, and I do some sports in the fall and spring, and that's kind of how it is. You know, you spend a lot of time with the players that you that are your teammates. You know, you guys practice basically year round. I've heard a lot of the things that you do for fun from Coach. What are some of those things, like maybe out of season or even in season, that you guys do as a team? It's a fun team building thing.
Sometimes the players will get together and have a team dinner before a game or before just like a practice, just as a team bonding activity.
Or sometimes some of us players will all go to like a girls' game or something and hang out.
Yeah, it's great. I know I've done that in the past too with some of my sports.
So a big question here. So far this season, how do you both feel about it?
We could be doing better. Offensively, we could just pass the ball more, get easier shots. Defensively, we've gotten way better than what we had in the start of the season.
I think it's going to be a process and that we're going in the right way towards our goals of being a better team.
Yeah, you guys have played with some tough teams so far. You know, like at West Noble, Manchester, both really good teams with really good players. Fairfield, again, just a really solid team and a really solid game that you guys played in that first matchup. But you two spend a lot of time in the post, and you battle some really good players. You look at Gavin Benton from Manchester, Braden Barth from West Noble, and then even like Tyson Fry at Fairfield. So what have you guys kind of done to try and compete with those players?
One of our former players, Cameron Salzer, he's helped us with that stuff, just telling us that we have to stay low, be strong with him, and just don't let him back you down.
Yeah, for me it's a little bit different because obviously I'm not like 6'5", but yeah, I got to try my best to push him out. If not, I got to get in front of him, and that can be really hard sometimes.
So a question kind of bounces off of that with those teams. You have had close losses here. So how as a player, we've asked Coach how he bounces back, but how as a player do you bounce back from those losses and even help the underclassmen kind of help them bounce back from those losses?
I just try not to think about it. Clearly, you got to watch film about it, but other than that, just look forward to the next game and don't really focus on the loss.
Yeah, you kind of got to lead by example and just keep your head up and hope that everyone else will see you doing good and follow in your steps.
Yeah, you know, you two are really important seniors for this team, really important players. You know, this Wawasee team is considered to be on the younger side. So you two as seniors have a big role as leaders. So how do you kind of take that role?
Sometimes being a leader isn't being the best player. Sometimes it's just showing your teammates what to do. If they're acting up, you got to fix them. Easy stuff like that.
And practice, encouraging your teammates and everything like that. He basically said it all.
So another big question here. What type of life lessons have you both learned from basketball?
Just because you make one mistake doesn't mean everything's going to go downhill. Mistakes are a part of life, and you just have to work on from them.
Yeah. I've learned that if something bad happens, it's not always the end, that if you keep working, you can go past whatever happened.
All right, so I'm assuming that you guys are coming with some goals this season, both as a team and individually. What are some of those goals that you've had at the start of the season?
I want to go positive this season as a team. I just want to see everybody do better. Defensively, I want to hold teams to under 40 points.
My goals are the same as his.
Yeah, so on the defensive end, it sounds like there are some big things for you guys.
So another question I have is kind of looking tonight against Whitco. What's your plans to beat Whitco tonight from your perspective?
Just to out-muscle them, get every rebound, just to be more physical than we have in recent games.
Yeah, I think if we just stop them on the defensive side, our offense will be fine.
All right, so you guys are both starters for the most part on this Wawasee team, but I'm sure it hasn't always been that way. Can you kind of take us through your high school career and kind of the teams that you've progressed on throughout high school? So like this would be like, you know, like your JV team, your freshman team. Where were you guys at throughout?
My freshman year, I was on the freshman team. And then after that, going into my sophomore year, I dislocated my ankle in about 2 places. And so I didn't really get to play until the end of the season, and I played JV. But last year, my junior year, I was full-time varsity. I didn't start. I started a couple of games, but this year I came in and I've started the whole time.
My freshman year, I only played a few freshman games. Then I was on JV and varsity. I didn't play much varsity. My sophomore year, I was full-time varsity, other than a couple games. Junior year, starting varsity. That wouldn't go too well. And then this year, first game I didn't start, and then the rest of the games I think I will start.
So a question I have here is kind of looking forward in the future. What future matchups are you both looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Northwood. I really want to beat them this year. We've lost to them every year. I think this is the year we got them.
Yeah, I like what he said. I'm looking forward to Northwood and Warsaw.
Yeah, we talked to Mason Shoemaker last week, and we asked him the same question. He said Warsaw was a big one. That's coming up on the 16th, so I'm sure everyone's going to have fun with that. It's going to be a good game. What is something that maybe you want people to know about this program that if they're not on the inside as a player or a coach that they wouldn't know?
Everybody on the team is like good, like a friendship. Nobody really hates each other. Nobody really talks smack. Everybody's trying to make everybody just like a good friendship.
I would say that everyone's roles are different. Just because like a couple people don't score as much points doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they have a different role than everyone else.
So my question is, what motivated you to play basketball? Like, was there an NBA player? What really motivated you to get into basketball and play basketball?
My friend Peyton Felger, he's actually on the podcast with me. 4th grade, he told me to come to the tryouts, and I did, and I just enjoyed it.
My mom put me in basketball when I was young, and I just liked it, so I kept doing it.
All right, so you two have been in this program longer than any other players on the team. What are some things that maybe you've learned that you want to pass on down to the next generation?
Be a good leader. Some of the younger kids, they don't really know how to boss the other kids around. They just let everything go.
Yeah, I would agree on that.
So, Collin, you kind of touched up on this, but what are some players from like past Wawasee teams that were your role models when you were playing?
Ethan Hardy, Austin Miller, that class, they were really good. Their leadership, communication, they just looked like a good team.
Mine was probably Cameron Salazar and Ethan Carey.
Yeah, we asked Mason the same question last week again. He said he definitely said Cameron Salazar. It sounds like he does a lot for what you guys want to do. But yeah, when you're in middle school, elementary, I remember personally at West Noble, went to a lot of varsity games for the high school, and there were some players that I got to know just their names and how they played, and they were a big reason of why I liked basketball, and specifically high school basketball, and probably a big reason why I'm doing this now. So, yeah, I can speak from personal experience as to why those players that played when you were younger can make such an impact on you.
So another big question here is, you both are obviously on the basketball team, and what can you say is a big thing about being on a basketball team? You kind of mentioned the friendships. What are some big things about being on a basketball team, positives?
I feel like the coach leans toward what their actions are going to do for you in the future. Most of them are positive. All of them are positive, actually.
Yeah, what he said. I think it's all about being positive.
All right, well, as we get ready for tonight against Whitco, how excited are you guys to take on the Whitco Wildcats in another Saturday night matchup here at home at the Hardwood TP?
I'm very excited. I love playing basketball. It just gets me going.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think this should be a good game.
So from a player's perspective, Coach is kind of talking about how hard-working you guys are. So from a player's perspective, how hard is it to practice during a basketball season? You really have to lock in. So what's the hardest thing about the basketball season that you have to work on?
Our defense. We go through a lot of defensive drills. It's very tiring. Most of the time we're trying to be physical.
Yeah, I'd say what he said, defensive toughness, because after a practice like that, coming back the next day, you might be sore, but you got to go through it again.
All right, so again, something we asked Mason last week. Do you guys ever have friendly competitions with Coach Everingham and the coaching staff, whether it's basketball or other things? And kind of walk us through that if it happens.
Sometimes on Saturdays we'll play this game called 42. It's just a 3-point shooting game, and then it'll be him and Coach Beasley versus 2 of the players in a tournament.
Yeah, that's about it.
And my question is, does Coach always win? Because he was bragging up how he always beats you guys. So is that true?
I don't think I've ever seen Coach Everingham win.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
that bragging, I think, is out of there. Good to know.
Well, we thank you guys for coming in. Again, this has been Collin, Roberson, and Peyton Felger. And that's going to conclude our Coach's Corner basketball show here this morning. We thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Again, between now and next week, the Wawasee Warriors will host the Whitco Wildcats tonight, and then they'll host the Warsaw Tigers December 16th. That's a Friday night. So definitely come out and support the Warriors if you get a chance. It's been 93.7 FM The Mix. You can also find this online at 937themix.com.